I said, no, he doesn't.
I have Frank on my
All
cell
right.
phone.
Let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order. Would the clerk please call the roll? Or Diane, I guess. We don't really have a clerk.
Mayor Donches,
Here.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Here.
Commissioner Tease,
Present.
and Commissioner Pappas is absent.
And we also have Aldermanic Representative Alderman Lopez here. Thank you for coming. Before we go any further, I wanted to mention that there's a ribbon cutting on the expansion of the fire station at 7, so I have to leave here at 6:45 at the latest. So if we're not through, the vice chair will have to take over. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of May 31st, 2018.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the Board of Public Works? I don't see anyone. Item 5, aldermanic referrals.
I don't know how to do it, so you're gonna go. You read it.
Well, we are just placing this on file.
Kevin's rules of
Now,
order.
we've been asked, now what this is, now we have to amend this, right?
We have to amend this, yes.
Or we have to recommend that it be. So this is a referral from the Board of Aldermen. And it is a resolution, specifically R18040, which would authorize a bond authorize a loan from the revolving loan fund to make improvement. The revolving loan fund is operated by the state of New Hampshire to make improvements in the wastewater collection system, capacity management, et cetera.
So move to positively refer to the alderman, is that what the motion would be?
Recommend that they pass it. Now, there's one caveat, and that is, why doesn't Lisa explain the?
So, originally, we asked we actually have to give the state of New Hampshire a commitment that we would like to apply for a loan. So this is really what we're doing here. And originally, we only applied for about half of the money, and for the project, and we actually want to lock in the entire amount, which is a total of $5 million. So if we could recommend to the Board of Aldermen that it be $5 million instead of 2.5, and I believe that there's going to be a motion to amend this legislation in committee of the committee of the Board of Aldermen.
So I think the motion would be that the recommendation is that the number be increased to the full grant of, the full amount of $5 million, and that we recommend that the Board of Aldermen act affirmatively on the resolution.
So moved.
Any discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe there's a little bit of background information. Was this some sort of surprise to the city that we'd have to go off and do this, or is this just ongoing type of activities that was already planned for?
No, this is something that has been long in the works. It's part of our permit that we'll be getting in the near future. It's called a CMOM plan, which is Capacity Management, Operation, and Maintenance. So it includes things like carrying our sewer lines, a catch basin cleaning program, updating our sewer infrastructure, things like that. So it's a pretty involved process.
Okay.
So, and we're working on that now. We have a draft plan, and it's under review, but certainly once we finalize the plan, that's something that we'll be sharing with you.
Well, is this like an addition, the loan is obviously going to be a liability for the city. Has this anything that we've already included in the budget for this current fiscal year, or is it already in plans for next fiscal year?
This has been in the works. It's through the wastewater fund.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different, but
Okay.
but we do this often. We can instead of bonding or other things, we can get very low interest money through the state. So we go this route whenever possible. So
All right.
right now, we're just asking the state we're making a commitment that we would like the money and to please hold it for us at this
All right.
stage.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, because it's an authorization to apply, actually, not
Right,
to apply for this loan.
correct.
The number should be 5 million.
Should be 5 million.
Now, the motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Parks and Recreation.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2019 HV 507 SFA cab and chassis truck from Liberty International of Manchester, New Hampshire, for the price of $88,785. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation, Fund, Trust, Activity, Surf.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
I move to approve the purchase of a six-wheel dump truck upfitting equipment package from HP Fairfield of Pembroke, New Hampshire for the price of $71,856.50. Funding through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund, Trust, Activity, Surf.
Discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move to approve the purchase of two 2018 Ford F-350 4x4 service body replacement trucks with V-plows for a total of $98,358.18 as outlined further in motion C.
Motion C on the agenda? Yes. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item D.
Move to approve the purchase of roadside and trail mowing services from Cole Farms of Chelmsford, Massachusetts, for an amount not to exceed $28,000. Funding for this purchase will be from Department 177 Parks and Recreation Funds, General and Trust, account category 54 Property Services, $24,000. Department 169 Wastewater Fund, wastewater account category 54 Property Services, $4,000.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item E.
To accept the donation of a memorial bench in memory of Mike Casa to be installed in Mine Falls Park.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move to approve the purchase of a playground climber through the U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance contract for $11,962 as outlined in letter F.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Street Department.
Move to abolish one signed maintenance assistant position and create one signed maintenance position at the street department.
Discussion, questions? Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, is that a role that was currently vacant? And we're just, didn't see further need, or are we just change of direction?
Good evening, John Ibarra, Street Superintendent. That is not currently vacant. We shuffled the operation around this spring to accommodate our workload, and I put a couple temporary guys over there out of the truck driver crew. It's working out so well that I've been able to set the sign maintenance position that I have now out to do just sign work, and the other guys are doing striping. So I'm able to get two crews out of this. It's a leadership role as a sign maintenance position. So by taking the sign maintenance, converting it to sign maintenance assistants, creating a sign maintenance, I'll be able to have that full-time, two crews running.
Excellent.
That's what I'm trying to achieve.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item C. Excuse me, item B.
Move to approve the purchase of one Johnson vacuum air sweeper from Sanitary Equipment Company in the amount of $259,100 as outlined in letter B.
Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item C.
Move to approve the purchase of one 2019 Rampart 20-ton ramp trailer with 24 feet flat deck and 6-foot dovetail with 8-foot hydraulic ramps from Rampart Trailers LLC of Wendell, North Carolina, for the amount of $20,231. Funding will be through Department 160 Engineering Fund Grant Activity Highway Block Grant.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D. I think here we would just
Put it on file.
move to accept and place on file. Is that a motion?
Absolutely.
Motion is to accept and place on file a letter from a thank you letter from the resident. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Solid waste. Mr. LaFleur is here. Item A.
I move to approve a 3-year contract with ChemServe Environmental Analysts of Milford, New Hampshire for water quality testing services at natural landfill sites for the solid waste department in the amount not to exceed $104,190 as referenced on our agenda tonight, section solid waste, motion A.
Is there?
Well
any
done.
Is there any discussion? Questions? Commissioner Moriarty?
There is mention that this motion would then go to the Board of Aldermen.
Yes.
So is that because it's a 3-year contract? Right.
So all of these contracts go to finance.
Yep.
Some would also go to the Board of Aldermen if they are a multi-year contract, as you just suggested, or if it exceeds $1 million. Those are ultimately voted on by the full Board of Aldermen. Any other discussion? Questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you. I had an opportunity to speak to the superintendent prior to the meeting, and I would have thought that some of this analysis prior to tonight's meeting could have been done in-house from maybe another department, such as our water treatment facility. But I think the superintendent shed some light that might be valuable to other members of the committee, commission, Board of Public Works Commission, and the residents to tell us why we don't do that, why we don't do it in-house or to that matter.
Well, we don't want to have any bias or any liability on our end for what the tests come out to be. We want it to be accurate and a third party to do it. I'm sorry, Jeff LaFleur,
Yeah.
Superintendent Solid Waste.
And we also don't have that capability in our lab.
Right.
Yeah, we're set up to,
For
to
some.
to test specific things for wastewater, not to do the type of testing. In fact, we use ChemServe at the wastewater treatment plant as well
Gotcha.
to do certain testing, so,
Yeah, I was just thinking of ways to save money, but they
Right. No,
educated
it's
me,
okay.
so thank you.
yep.
And especially with the groundwater testing, we're starting to test for the PFAS and PFOA, and we don't want to have any discrepancies with our testing on that, so that's why we have a third party do that.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
Move to approve a 3-year contract for air quality and landfill gas sampling and analysis services at Shady Lane Landfill and New Ciro School for the Solid Waste Department with TRC of Manchester, New Hampshire, in the amount not to exceed $53,433. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Solid Waste, account classification, 53 professional and technical services.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item C.
Move to approve engineering services at the city's landfills for FY19 from Sanborn Head and Associates of Concord, New Hampshire, in the amount not to exceed $80,000 and further described as item C on the agenda.
Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. LaFleur.
Thank you.
Wastewater, item A.
Move to approve the use of warrants as presented.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
I move to approve the purchase of the chemical sodium hypochlorite in the amount of $200,000 from Univar USA of Morrisville, Pennsylvania, as noted on tonight's agenda in motion B.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes.
Move to approve the purchase of the chemical sodium bisulfite in the amount of $53,500 from PVS Chemical Solutions of Detroit, Michigan, as further outlined in letter C on the agenda.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I'm sorry,
Oops, that's fine. Commissioner Moriarty.
I can't remember, was this the company that was not the lowest bid, but we selected it?
Sorry, Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. My understanding, this is the lowest bid.
Okay, there is one motion where we took the second lowest, and I wanted an explanation on that, but that must be a different motion. I'm sorry.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
Move to approve the purchase of polymer from Polydyne of Riceboro, Georgia, in the amount of $400,000. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund wastewater, account classification 61 supplies and materials.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Just an observation, it seems like we're buying quite a bit of chemicals, and I'm sure they're all needed for the wastewater department. Is this an annual item that we budget, or do we buy it periodically during the course of the?
Yes, it is an annual item.
Okay, so it's safe to say this will probably last us at least 12 months? This is
Yes.
a 12-month supply. Okay, good. Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes,
Um,
Commissioner Tease.
Just, thank you, relative to that, this is something that's budgeted for, and, correct? And
Correct.
despite it being budgeted, we still approve each purchase.
Correct.
Thank you.
Item E.
Move to approve change order number 4 to the HVAC upgrades contract with Monadnock Building Company in the amount of $17,940.40 and further detailed in letter E.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Back to the question. I think the reason this is, well, first of all, these contracts have to be acted on individually by the Finance Committee. So that, because all contracts need to be specifically approved. I mean, in terms of the way this is presented and the way, it's mostly just custom. I mean, there's no law that says this, you know what I mean? There are probably different ways this could all be restructured, but, meaning I approve, whatever, you could do it in bulk, maybe, I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm just thinking, if the budget is approved and we're spending under the budget, it's nice to be informed when these purchases are made, but I think it's duplication of efforts to reapprove it if it's already approved.
Yes. Now, I mean, I suppose what we're approving here is a specific contract with a specific provider. The budget doesn't say, you know, who's gonna be the provider, so this stuff goes out to bid. So I'm sure there are different ways that this could be done, but this is sort of the way it's done this way because that's the way it's always been done. You know what I mean? Could it be something different? Yeah, probably. Anyway, item F. Is there a motion on item F?
Move to approve amendment
Or
number
did I,
one.
sorry, did I skip E?
No, we did E.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion F. Commissioner T's got me so, you know, rattled with all these questions that I skip over a couple things or whatever.
I move to approve amendment number one in the amount of $56,100 to the contract with Flow Assessment of Auburn, New Hampshire for the combined sewer overflow monitoring program. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund, wastewater account classification, 53 professional services.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman?
So, back to your original point and Commissioner T's, this is obviously something that was budgeted originally against the original contract, but now there's an amendment to that contract. That was not necessarily in the original budget, is that correct?
There's another company that was budgeted for last year. This company came in towards the end of the fiscal year 18. So they completed, I think, 3 months of the year, but the entire year was budgeted for. So this company is slated to come in for another year, so it is budgeted for a year.
Okay, trying to understand, okay.
Commissioner T's?
Commissioner Ackerman, is your question simply, are we spending above and beyond the approved budget? Is that what you're asking?
Correct, that's my very specific question.
And the answer to that question is no.
The reason that there's an amendment is they're amending the existing contract that went for 3 months now to continue through the following year, this coming fiscal year. That's what this amendment's for. So it was budgeted.
Okay.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes. Superintendent, I don't remember reading a flow assessment regarding the CSO. Is that something that we receive? I don't remember receiving that for the board to review. That's quite an interest in this whole process.
You'd like to see the testing from, that flow assessment does, you mean?
Well, according to this, they give you a report and an analysis,
Correct, monthly.
and that's what I'm curious about. There must be a summary of that report.
Yeah, they have equipment at all the CSOs
Yep.
that provide data every day, and they compile the data and then put it into a monthly report and send it to us. So we can send it off to the regulatory agencies, the EPA and the DES.
Okay.
But it's specific to flow at all those stations.
Well, maybe what I was looking at is an update on the process, you know, on the CSOs, because we don't typically get, until we read it in the paper, that there's been overflow into the river. And so I would like to be up to date on it, when, you know, when they give us some information, basically. So maybe a slight summary or something like that would be great. Is that reasonable?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, when we send the report to the regulatory agencies, we could potentially copy the Board of Public Works as well, so they're getting.
Yes,
It-
you can do that.
I don't know if that's too much is that too much information, so that, or are we
Yeah,
better
it's-
off providing a summary?
Yeah,
Board.
a summary would be better of the
Yeah.
report, because the
Okay.
report's,
Okay,
Right.
it's, you know, it's a booklet.
yeah, okay, well, you don't
I
want
would
that.
appreciate that.
You want a summary?
Summary.
We can do the summary.
Did we vote on this one?
Not yet.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item G.
I move to approve the purchase and installation of flame arresters from NEES Co. of Quincy, Mass. in the amount of $19,329 as outlined in item G on tonight's agenda.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item H.
I was hoping I was going to get this one. Move to approve the purchase of return-activated sludge draft tubes for each of the 3 secondary clarifiers in the amount of $62,812 from Evoqua Water Technologies and is further outlined in letter H.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Now we'll go on to engineering.
Thank you.
Mr. Boucher.
Thank you.
Maybe Mr. Dukran will come up. Under engineering, item A.
Move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permit and fees as submitted.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
I move to award the contract for bridge engineering services of the Canal Street Bridge, proposed bridge repairs to CLD Fuse and O'Neill of Manchester, New Hampshire, in the amount of $42,543.
Any discussion? All those, oops, excuse me, Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. Superintendent, is this the engineering examination of the bridge that's in front of BAE Systems on Canal Street that we're talking about?
State Open City Engineer, yes, that's correct, it's that bridge.
And what was the findings of the analysis done?
Okay. So far, what has been done there has just been a geotechnical investigation. They did a boring on the abutment of the bridge, close to the abutment, and they found that the problem there is that water is being trapped behind the concrete abutments. And it's probably due to the design from years ago, an old, standard of design, and the water isn't, leaving that area by itself. And that has promoted deterioration of the concrete. So if you go under the bridge, you will see where the water is coming through cracks in the concrete, and the deterioration has been promoted over many years. And that has led actually to the bridge substructure getting a rating of 4 out of 10, and it's therefore on the state's red list. So now the engineering company, we want to hire them to proceed with designing the repairs that are needed to, one, to correct the drainage problem, allowing the impounded water to leave, and secondly, to repair the failing structure.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one more follow-up
Yes,
question.
of course.
So we start out with our analysis that's already occurred, that's already been taken care of. This is the design to repair the thing, and from there, from what they recommend, is when we determine what the cost of the repair will be. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any idea, and I'm sure this is a long process, and any idea how long their engineering services are planned to take place, and what's the estimated time that we might prepare, or is that just all got to happen, not necessarily in parallel?
No, what we'll do is get a design done completely and a cost estimate that will go into bid documents that we'll advertise for construction. Our hope is to have all of this done by winter. This kind of work could be done during the winter. Should you have a good winter, you could start this kind of construction and hopefully get through during that time.
And obviously, there's no need to be concerned or whatever, because you're doing a great job there, but during the repair process, do you envision that bridge being down to one lane, or is it going to be done while it's still in use?
We're thinking it'll probably be down to one lane, depending on the nature of the work at the time.
Okay.
There might be times when we'll be down to one lane, or even have to close it and probably conduct the work at night. We don't know yet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the insight.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item C.
Move to approve the construction contract for the 2018 sewer replacement Harvard Street project to Northeast Earth Mechanics of Pittsfield, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $692,905.20.
Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
Move to approve the contract for vegetation removal to William P. Davis Excavation LLC of Hampton, New Hampshire, in the amount of $42,750. Funding through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Activity, Merrimack River Levy Remedial Fund.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E.
Item E, I move to approve the change order number 1 to the paving contract for the FY18 paving program to Newport Construction of Nashua, New Hampshire, in the amount of $50,000 as outlined in motion E under engineering's tonight's agenda.
Discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty.
So I'm reading the motion, and the reason for it had to do with the increase in the flagger. So was that in the contract we signed, that we would agree to such a motion? 'Cause I don't think that's appropriate. We already agreed to the funding.
So, let me explain how it works. Steve Dukran again, city engineer. So, this kind of contract, when we put it out, the flagger item or the uniformed officers item is not a bid item. It's an allowance. So we put a certain amount of money in the contract, expecting that they would hire flaggers at a rate of $22 an hour. However, they simply can't find any flaggers. There's a high demand for flaggers, and they're calling for big dollars, big bucks. So that's the going rate. We based our allowance on last year's experience. There must have been a huge change between last year and this year. What's happening this year?
Any other
Thank you. No, thank you.
questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item F, which is an informational item and is an update on the bike lane project. Who's going to do that?
I can do
Oh,
it.
Steve, all right. Mr. Dukran.
Yes, we have some screenshots to show you. Yeah, that might be a bit small. So, just want to let you know that we do have existing bike lanes in the city. For instance, East Dunstable Road between the Turnpike and Main Street south of East Dunstable Road into South Main Street, Temple Street, East Pearl Street, and some others. And those were put in the early 2000s, including the Nashua Heritage Rail Trail. Then we have others like bike paths, the Nashua River Rail Trail. So with the bike share program coming in the city, we want to connect these existing bike lanes and bike paths to downtown, to Greeley Park, to Mine Falls Park. And so economic development and community development came up with suggestions on which streets should be improved with bike lanes and signs and stripings to make these connections. So I think we skipped over the overall map. It's kind of hard to see because of, it's trying to cover the whole city. But the streets that was suggested would be coming from the roundabout at Riviere on Main Street, all the way through downtown, through Concord Street to Greeley Park. Then all streets starting on Main Street, going down to Harbor Avenue, across East Hollis Street, Spruce Street, back onto Temple, and then Temple and East Pearl, where there are existing bike lanes. And then they wanted us to look at West Hollis Street, beginning at Countryside Drive, which actually connects to bike trails, the Nashville River Heritage Trail, I think it's called, Alton Gilson Road, and then coming all the way down to Wellesley Street, as well as Riverside, and having two ways to get into the Stello Stadium, Mine Falls Park. So either through Wellesley and Radcliffe, or coming all the way to Riverside and Stadium Drive. So those are the streets we have looked at, and I want to introduce you to young engineer Emil Bravo, who spent a lot of time in researching and drawing up these plans. And I think we have about 25, 30 drawings altogether, and they are in good shape in terms of design. We have a few things to iron out, but I just want to give you some samples of what we've been looking at. Because there are challenges trying to fit standard bike lanes in the city streets, all city streets that we have. We have to follow standards provided by Federal Highway, which is called the AASHTO guidelines, and there is another national standard called the NACTO. Those are just acronyms. And essentially what they wanted to do is, if you're going to have an individual separate independent bike lane on the street, if it's next to a curb, it needs to be 5 feet wide. So if you have two 5-foot bike lanes for each direction on one street, you have to get 10 feet of unused roadway. A lot of cases we don't have that. So, but let me show you some of them. I don't know if you can see those. Maybe Dan can enlarge any of those. Can you go to the first one?
Down the bottom in the black bar, there's a plus sign. I think you can use that to zoom in.
Maybe I'll just talk you through it then. All right, so I also wanted to show you some features that you will see when these things get implemented. When you are able to get a 5-foot lane, and we are able to in many locations, you'll see that stripe in the street. And our intention is to put a white line and a green line adjacent to each other to demarcate the bike lane. And then you'll see a bike symbol, and we do have some in the street already, like East Dunsboro Road. And we'll have a bike sign that says it's a bike lane. And when you get to a case where you can't have that separate bike lane, you have to do a shared road lane. So what essentially you're doing, you're having the car and the bike travel together. And you need a minimum of 13 feet to do so. You can have a bike riding the side of that lane, and a car can pass it. And so several locations along Main Street, that's what you're going to have. You get to downtown, how we're able to achieve that is by eliminating the door opening lane. I don't know if you've seen that line. There's a separate striping outside of the parking lane. You can eliminate that and then have up to a minimum of 13 feet to have that shared lane. So that's what you'd see. The bike symbol is a little bit different from a separate bike lane, but it essentially tells the bike where they can go, and it also tells the cars or the vehicles that a bike can share the lane, and we'll have appropriate signage as well. And then there are situations where you just can get 13 feet. And one of the plans we have Harbor Avenue and parts of All Street. So you have parking probably on both sides of the street, and you have to have the car and the bike in the same lane. And what you do here, the symbol is now more towards the center of the travel lane, and the sign will say essentially telling the car that, or the vehicle that the bike can take the full lane. And these are all pretty much used standards in other places that have had bike programs for a long time. So we're borrowing what they've used, and we're applying those standards to Nashua. One of the things I want to point out, it's up on the screen there, in green are what called bike boxes. And this is an essential feature if you want to make sure that when a bike gets to an intersection, especially a signalized intersection like this is Main Street with All Street, the bike, remember the bike has to obey the rules, the same rules as vehicles. They have to stop at a signal and then proceed when it's green. So these bike boxes can do a couple of different things. If you're traveling along the road and you come to an intersection like this, if you want to make a left turn, so you get into the bike box and you move over to the left side, and up there looking at the one heading south, which is the green box up on the top right, you move over to the left there so that you can make that turn onto All Street. And the bike can also stay on the right side of the box if they want to proceed with the traffic when they get a green light. The other benefit of having a bike box is that if you have a number of bicycles coming, traveling along the way and want to cross this intersection, when they get a stoplight, they can actually gather in these bike boxes so that when the light turns green, they can all cross before the vehicles. Otherwise, if they were lining up behind in queue, then because they travel much more slowly, they wouldn't have enough time for them all to cross the intersection. So I think that would be a benefit if we were able to install those bike boxes. A couple other things in this whole program that we have to implement would be down on West Hollis Street at the Countryside Drive, if you're familiar with it. It's a road that people travel fast, and you need to have a crossing there in order to, if you're heading west and want to get over to Countryside. So what we're going to implement there would be a rapid flashing beacon, similar to what we have at crosswalks, but in this case it will be for bicycles. And a bike intending to cross will push the button or something to activate the lights. The cars will know a bike is present, and it will give the bike a safer crossing. So that's one feature. It's a costly item, but it's essential to put that there. Then when you come onto Riverside Street, if you're coming down on West Hollis Street and you want to cross over to get to the stadium, we want to put a crossing there that works with the signal. So same kind of system. We do have currently a pedestrian crossing. A pedestrian pushes a button, they get a cross signal, and they can cross. Here we have a bike signal head. Bike pushes a button, signal will allow them to cross, but the cars stop, just to make that safer. A bike box wouldn't work well there, simply because of the number of vehicles and the way the signal is currently set up. So those are some key features. Other things that are important in looking at this program that will add cost will be, we will try to use as much as we can. We'll maximize the use of the existing striping, but in several instances, in order to fit the bike lane or the shared lane, you will have to remove striping or relocate striping, and that will cost us some. We're going to try to narrow the travel lanes when you have individual travel lanes for vehicles as much as possible. You'll go down to 10 feet, and that will add a dimension in terms of calming traffic. Narrow lanes supposed to mean slower traffic, and with especially bicycles in the street, you really want cars to travel more slowly. In terms of cost, this overall program, at this point in time, the estimate is around $230,000. The bulk of it being contracted, a lot of striping, a lot of pavement markings, and there will be some work provided by DPW in terms of the signs, the posts and signs and so on. In speaking with the mayor, this is something that we'll phase in, a street at a time or part of a street at a time. But that's essentially where we are with this.
Excuse me, Commissioner Tease.
I think this is a great project and will be well received by the community. I was curious to know how many miles of road will be positively impacted by this project? Are they contiguous? And my immediate thought was, we're gonna do it on Main Street and people are enjoying Main Street. Does it end abruptly at Concord Street? Although I think I heard you say it goes through Concord Street and Greeley Park. But are there points where we're just leading people down a path where they can go no further? Or are these contiguous routes that people can travel?
All right, so we got a city map back on, and so let's look, for instance, on Main Street, starting on the south end. That's the roundabout at Riviera, and it goes through all the way up to, Library Hill, and then it terminates at Greeley Park, and so that was our destination. Can you go further? Yes, it can be designed to go further when we need to do so. Then the other path to the right of Main Street is that All Street, Harbor Avenue, Spruce, Temple, and Pearl.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Right.
That's excellent.
We're also, in the current paving program, we're looking at any streets with a center line. We're going to be adding bike lanes as we go, so.
One little piece I failed to mention, now that the plan is up, the map is up, we want to put what we call a bike route on Cheyenne Avenue, connecting the Nashua High North with Mine Falls Park, and essentially Nashua High South. And that's shown at the upper left up there.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, I was wondering, have we pursued any grant money to help us out here?
Not Public Works, not just yet. We just, it's just been a few weeks we've been working on this. So
There are some potential grants through, actually through public health, so that we're talking about.
Right.
So possibly, yes, we're hoping.
Yeah, just an observation. I'm all for the bike lanes, and I'm also all for the new contract we have with the bike company. Via?
VO ride.
Theo, but my observation is the people who are renting it are not wearing bike helmets. So I'm a little concerned about the safety aspect of that. I don't know if that was addressed when we signed, I wasn't involved with that, so I don't know how they addressed it, but that's what I've been observing anyway, so.
I think they advise people to use helmets, but they can't make them do it, I think it shows up on the app, but I'm not sure. When I've done it, I have used my helmet, just so.
I haven't seen it, that's great.
Just so that's clear. Trying to set a good example. Any other questions or comments on the bike plan? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is again an informational item, update on the degradation fees.
Yes.
And I think Mr. Dukran's going to do that as well.
yes, I just got a few words regarding this project. We were here before. In fact, I believe it got started right here at this board, where it was requested that we, and the mayor followed up with looking at our problems with patches and possible degradation of the pavement because of utility cuts, and also the possibility of implementing degradation fee like the cities of Manchester and Concord in New Hampshire. So overall, generally it's believed that there is a problem because of cutting the street. One of the things that we had to be careful about in speaking with others is that the fact that the city of Nashua has a very stringent restoration requirement for utility cuts, overall street cuts. We simply just can't apply. You cannot apply the fee structure that Concord or Manchester do. So what we need to do is find out for ourselves what level of degradation and loss of life we're having for pavement life because of cuts. So we did bring a contract to you for approval to hire Stantec to do a study for us, where they would look at the history of our cuts, because we do track our cuts. We have a good tracking system, a spreadsheet of all our cuts, so we can still find them. And they would review them with respect to the pavement right outside the cuts, and then evaluate how much loss of life there is. Like they have done this for other communities as well. And just to mention again, I just as a reminder of what our restoration requirements are. If you have to restore a cut, you have to cut back the trench or the hole by 3 feet in all directions. And then you have to replace the gravel down to 18 inches with fresh gravel. And the pavement is very thick. It's, at least 5 to 7 inches, depending on the application of the street. And so no other communities in New Hampshire are even close to what we do. So that's why we have to do this, to make sure to justify whatever action we take upon the completion of the study. So Stantec has completed their in-office preparation work. They spent a few weeks figuring out how to go about this. We provided our information, and they will be starting next week in the field work, reviewing the cuts that they have selected to review. And so they're going to be looking at the degradation on collector roads and arterial roads versus residential roads. We expect it to be different in each of those categories. In terms of their schedule for finishing, they're looking at having a final report by the end of August. So that's a schedule. So that's a quick update of where we are with this, and so we're making some progress.
Discussion, questions? All right. Next, we go to administration, and there's a budget transfer items. That's number A. I think we need to approve that, correct?
No, it's just.
You're just informing?
Yep, just informational.
Okay. Any questions on the transfers? They're relatively minor,
Yeah.
but.
Right. Pretty straightforward.
All right, and the next item is the director's report.
One of the things I just wanted to mention quickly before I get into the slides is that I had a discussion with Commissioner Pappas today regarding the recycling committee, and she had indicated, and I'm in agreement that we start in sometime late August, early September. She was thinking because of all the vacations that people are taking and also how busy the division is right now, it might make sense to wait until that time. So as long as the board is in agreement with that, we'll work towards that timeline. I did also discuss, though, with Commissioner Pappas that we would work on a flyer, a recycling flyer of sort of do's and don'ts, what can be recycled, what can't be recycled, just as a reminder, so we can try to prevent contamination in our recycling and prevent rejected loads. So, and also, we'd like to have a discussion about glass and the difficulty of recycling glass at our next meeting. So. And, okay, so this first slide is a new storm drain on Marshall Street. This was required by the planning board of a private developer because of our drainage concerns in that area. This is the new guardrail on Temple Street. We've been talking about this for a long time, Commissioner Ackerman. You had really advocated for this. It's finally in. I'm not sure you've had a chance to see it because it's just in, but it looks good and provides a much safer environment. Several years ago, I think there were a couple of people that ended up off the road and one person was killed. This was a long time ago, but nonetheless, a dangerous place.
As soon as you were done, former Commissioner Bergeron sent me a text. As soon as the city was done the project,
Oh, did he? Okay.
he drove by, he
saw-
said, "Good job, Nashua, BPW."
Did you give me credit for that? It was a new guy?
Absolutely, no, team effort.
This was a sidewalk installation on Amherst and Somerset Parkway. This was done ahead of the paving in that area. We needed to make the tip downs and sidewalks ADA compliant because of the federal funds that we'll be using to pave. So this work was done by Leighton White. Paving, of course, has begun. I'm sure you see us all over the city. The picture on the left is a street that was milled. It had very thin pavement. And the other two pictures are the adjustment of structures that we need to do prior to paving. This is, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but on the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, the sword was missing many years ago. And there was a collaborative effort between Lori Galbo and Make It Labs, and they recreated a new sword and put it in place. So that's pretty cool to see that replaced. We have been painting the Main Street bridge rails, and I believe that work is now all completed, and it looks very nice. It was much needed. Summer Fun opening day on June 2nd was a huge success. We had performances by Greg and Alex, the Spartans, and Tokyo Joe's. We had a bike safety rodeo, which is appropriate given our recent launch of Via Ride, and over 250 bike helmets were given to children. And we want to shout a special thank you to New York Life, PAL, and Dartmouth Hitchcock for taking part in the rodeo. The Memorial Day Parade was a success. Our crews were out cleaning and planting in anticipation of that. Our pools are open. They opened on June 22nd. On the left is Crown Hill Pool, on the right is Centennial, and a refurbished pump and valve at Rotary Pool on the bottom. The Broad Street Roundabout, we had talked about what we were planning to do there. It has been planted. It doesn't look like much now because the plants are very small, but we, as you know, had a landscape architect design it, and we're very excited to see it grow. So I think it's gonna look really nice. Very excited to see by fall what it looks like. So
Director,
yes.
did I see in some of your notes something about we took the lights out of the Broad Street roundabout as well?
Yes, there haven't been any lights in that roundabout for a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
so no safety, I mean, no particular reason, just we didn't need them?
They kept getting hit.
Do
and
recall,
They were,
okay.
yeah, they kept getting damaged, so we took them out. So there is, right now, there is no lighting in the roundabout, yeah. This is a sinkhole repair on Canal Street. We had a failed drain pipe lateral. Another sewer service installation on 424 Main Dunstable Road. The residents actually had a failed septic system and chose to tie into the city sewer. This is on Spring Street near the church, the walkway that goes to the Spring Street parking lot. We completed that whole project with the bollards and chain fence along the sidewalk. This is on Commercial Street next to the fire station. We removed some brush and overgrowth from the sidewalk. So you can notice the difference. It's a lot nicer now. We did some catch basin, this is just pictures of catch basin repair and a sinkhole. The sinkhole was on Turnbridge Drive. And there's another sinkhole at Alice Drive and a catch basin repair at Prospect. These are our chlorine contact tanks. Annually, each tank is taken offline for cleaning and maintenance and repairs. You can see in the second two pictures, you can see the crack and then where the crack was repaired. These are the tanks that you'll recall where it really is kind of the final part of our process before going out, the water goes out to the Merrimack. Our wastewater staff assisted in the rescue of 11 ducklings on Green Street Monday. They fell through a catch basin cover.
That's
So
amazing.
they were able to rescue them and return them to their mother. This is the setback barrier wall at the landfill. We continue to build it. You'll recall this is the 500-foot setback that we have from the residential properties. So that's quite a project. And the landfill will be closed on the 4th of July, and trash will be delayed for the rest of the remainder of the week. And that's all. Any questions?
Any questions or thoughts for the commissioners, or for the director? Alderman Lopez.
I just wanted to comment, at the precinct block party, DPW brought a garbage truck for the kids to look at as part of Touch a Truck, and the driver was a complete hit, to the point where the kids, the volunteer kids, were going around the street, bringing the trash bins back, so that they could see how, when it lines up, it gets dumped into the thing, so he was a huge celebrity on Ash Street by the end, because basically he emptied all their trash, like, early. On his way out, he stopped and picked up like a mattress and some solid waste too, so he was a very good ambassador. He was very friendly to everybody, so he did a great job.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Any other questions, comments? If not, well, we're in commissioners' comments. Any commissioners' comments? Personnel, we do have a motion to unseal the minutes
So moved.
of the meeting of May 31. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes and the meeting, and the minutes are unsealed. Now, we do not have any non-public items, do we?
We have one personnel.
We have one per, oh, I'm sorry, okay. Personnel item.
I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A32B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. Mr. Chairman, I move to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works non-public meeting of June 28, 2018, until such time as the majority of the vote votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
We're in public session. I think we can do this by roll call. Yes, just call the roll, please.
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Motions, we're back in, the minutes are sealed, I'm sorry, until we unseal them. That's the end of the agenda. Commissioner Ackerman,
Make a motion that we adjourn.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. The meeting is adjourned at 6:37 PM.